In the heart of a quiet village surrounded by golden wheat fields, the sound of birds chirping was a sharp contrast to the silence that filled Sara's small home. Her father, once a strong farmer, lay on a worn-out cot, his leg wrapped in bandages from an accident during the last harvest. Sara's mother, a petite woman with calloused hands, had spent the morning scrubbing floors at the landlord's house. Their home was a single-room mud hut, barely big enough for a family of 5. The smell of damp earth mixed with the faint aroma of wildflowers that grew around the edges of their home. The family's only meal for the day had been a watery soup made from leftover lentils. Sara, the eldest of 3 siblings, felt a heavy sense of responsibility. Her younger brother Hassan looked up to her with hopeful eyes, while little Amina clung to their mother, too young to understand the gravity of their situation. Part 2. Sara's desperation leading to the theft. One evening, as the golden hues of sunset bathed the village in a warm glow, Sara decided she couldn't bear to see her siblings go to bed hungry again. Wrapping her scarf tightly around her head, she ventured into the bustling marketplace. The market was alive with chatter. Vendors shouted, enticing passers-by with their fresh produce and handmade goods. Sara walked past a stall selling vibrant fruits, her mouth watering at the sight of juicy oranges. She stopped briefly, but clenched her fists, knowing she had no money. As she passed by the bakery, the smell of freshly baked bread was irresistible. The baker, Mr. Ahmed, was busy arranging loaves in a wooden rack outside his shop. The golden crusts glistened in the fading sunlight, and Sara's stomach growled loudly. Desperation overwhelmed her. With a quick glance to ensure no one was watching, she grabbed a loaf and darted down the alley. But fate wasn't on her side. "Sara!" a voice boomed behind her. Startled, she tripped and fell, the bread rolling out of her hands. She turned to see Mr. Ahmed standing over her, his expression unreadable. Part 3. The Confrontation and Kindness. Sara's heart pounded as tears streamed down her cheeks. She expected anger, scolding, or worse, but Mr. Ahmed did something unexpected. "We child?" he asked softly. "Why did you take it?" Through sobs, Sara poured out her story. She spoke of her father's injury, her mother's struggles, and her siblings' hunger. Mr. Ahmed listened intently, his stern expression softening with each word. "You're brave to admit the truth," he finally said. "But stealing isn't the answer. Come with me." He helped Sara to her feet and led her back to the bakery. Instead of punishing her, he handed her the bread and packed a small bag of food for her family. "This is a loan," he said firmly. "You'll work here to pay it back." Part 4. A new beginning at the bakery. The next morning, Sara arrived at the bakery, nervous but determined. Mr. Ahmed welcomed her and introduced her to the basics of baking. She started with small tasks, sweeping the floors, washing utensils, and arranging loaves. Days turned into weeks, and Sara began to learn the art of baking. Mr. Ahmed was a patient teacher, guiding her as she kneaded dough and shaped loaves. "You have a natural talent," he often said, watching her work with precision. Their bond grew stronger, and Sara started seeing Mr. Ahmed as a mentor. For the first time in her life, she felt hope. She saved her small wages to buy books for her siblings and occasionally surprised her mother with treats from the bakery. Part 5. Resolution and Legacy. Years later, Sara stood outside her own bakery, the Kind Loaf, as the villagers gathered for its grand opening. Her heart swelled with pride as she remembered the journey that had brought her here. Mr. Ahmed, now retired, was the guest of honor. He smiled warmly as Sara handed him the first loaf baked in her shop. "This is for you," she said, her voice filled with gratitude, "for believing in me when no one else did." The bakery became a symbol of hope in the village. Sara implemented a pay-it-forward system where customers could buy a loaf for someone in need. Her kindness inspired others, and soon the village thrived on a spirit of generosity.